All right, let's code. We'll jump over into Google Chrome or whatever browser you're using, and I'm going to go to colab.research.google.com. I'm going to load up a Google Colab notebook. Wonderful. And I'm going to name this one PyTorch Experiment Tracking. And I'm going to give it the video tag at the end here, just so you know when you look at this notebook on GitHub, it's from the video. And I'm going to give this a heading 07 PyTorch Experiment Tracking. And I'm going to write a little note here just to introduce it. Machine learning is very experimental. We've seen this so far. We've run a bunch of different modeling experiments so far. And in order to figure out which experiments are worth pursuing, that's where experiment tracking comes in. It helps you to figure out what doesn't work, because that's the nature of science, right? If you figure out what doesn't work, so you can figure out what does work. So in this notebook, we're going to see an example of programmatically tracking experiments. And so I'll just put some resources here so you know where they are. So of course, we've got the book version of the course. We'll actually just go to the top of the heading here. This is learnpytorch.io, number 7. This is the notebook we're going to be going through. So we'll just come over into here. So book version of notebook. Wonderful. And then ask a question, very important. We'll get up GitHub discussions if you are stuck for anything related to this course. And then this is not part of the course, but it's some great extracurricular material. Madewithml.com is one of my favorite sites, so I'm going to put this here, extracurriculum. Just to start it off, we haven't even covered any code and we're already covering the extracurriculum. So let's get started. I'm going to clean up some of my tabs here. And so to begin, I'm going to make sure I'm using a GPU, because this might restart the runtime. Yeah, there we go. So click to connect, making sure I've got a GPU. Otherwise, we'll have to restart the runtime again later on. GPU backend. Beautiful. Now, this section uses some updated PyTorch and Torch Vision APIs, which currently aren't installed at the time of recording, that is, into Google Colab. Well, they aren't actually even released by PyTorch just yet. So that's how cutting edge this course is at the time of recording. So I'm just going to print this out just so we see. We need Torch version 1.12 plus and Torch Vision 0.13 plus. So as you can see, my Google Colab instance doesn't yet have those. If yours does, you can continue with the code here, but I've got a block of code in the book version of the course. So just at this link here, number 7, if we go down to getting set up, if we run this block of code, I'll copy that. Bring this in here. What it's going to do is going to try to make sure we've got the right versions of PyTorch and Torch Vision. And if we don't, it's going to run this install command to install the nightly versions. And that's from PyTorch getting set up. We go to get started. We've got start locally. We want Linux because that's what Colab runs on, pip, and CUDA for GPU. We're just running this command here so we get this one. So we get the nightly versions, which aren't yet out and aren't yet the default in Google Colab. So if you have the right versions, this will run automatically. If you don't, it will install them. So let's run this. It'll take about 3 to 4 minutes to run, and I'll just pause the video there and I'll see you in a few seconds. Alrighty, so it looks like that took about just over 3.5 minutes on my Google Colab instance. But what you can see here is that the info prints out, Torch/Torch Vision versions not as required. If you do have the right versions, this try block should pass, and it should just say, hey, you've got these versions. But now we've installed the nightly versions. We're going to restart the runtime. Otherwise, I don't have access to those versions I just installed. So I'll click Restart Runtime. We'll see it restart over here. And then I'll just wait for that to load up. And I'll make sure I've got a GPU as well. GPU, beautiful, save. Have I got a GPU? Yes, I do, GPU backend. So if I rerun these, I should have the nightly versions of Torch and Torch Vision. Wonderful. So there's Torch 1.13, 0.14. These are the minimum versions you'll need for this notebook. So the minimum versions. So if you have a later version by default, well, that's okay. You should be able to run the code we've got in here. And if not, if there's any issues, just leave one on the GitHub and I'll get to it and fix it up. But now we've got the upgraded versions of Torch and Torch Vision. We can also, this is in the getting setup section as well, PyTorch experiment tracking. We can also import our regular imports, as well as the code we created in PyTorch going modular, rather than rewriting all of it. So import our standard imports, Torch Vision, Torch, matplotlib. Even though we've already got it, we'll do it anyway. See if we've got Torch info. If not, we'll install it so we can get a printout of our model summaries. And we'll get our going modular scripts from the course GitHub. So I'll just run this. Couldn't find Torch info, installing it. This shouldn't take too long. I'll just let this run. I'll be back in a second. Beautiful. So that only took about 18 seconds on my machine. So now we should have access to all of our going modular scripts that we've previously created. For example, here's engine.py. There's all of the functionality we've written in previous sections. And we're going to be altering our train function later on to track our experiments. Well, we've already got them tracking kind of, but we're going to use TensorBoard this time. So that's a little spoiler. That's why we needed to import that code. And while we're here, we might as well finish off by set up device agnostic code. Device agnostic code. We'll set the device equals CUDA if torch.CUDA is available, else CPU and device. We'll just make sure we've got a GPU. And I've got a little helper function in here, section number 7, which is just to set the random seeds. Now, we've done this a fair few times. So if you want some information on what a random seed does, it flavors our randomness. So to try and make things reproducible, I'm just going to create a little helper function, just def set seeds, default on 42, our favorite number. This could really be anything, but we're going to use 42. And we set the manual seed, and we set the CUDA manual seed. So we'll run that so that in our upcoming cells, we can just run set seeds, and we know that the seeds get set. Beautiful. So that's getting set up. Just a note, if you do take a break from this notebook and come back, you will have to rerun these. So just make sure you've got the latest versions of Torch and Torch Vision. Otherwise, some of the code we write with Torch Vision especially might break later on. So just keep that in mind. If you take a break and come back, make sure you rerun these cells up here so we have all of the code that we need. I'll see you in the next video.